Hello and welcome to Homely Property Chats, where we talk openly about buying and investing property in Spain based on real experiences. So today we have a very special episode that is slightly different. And instead of speaking to one of our usual experts, we're joined by Monika, who together with her husband
Hello.
Adam has just bought their first property in Valencia. And in this episode, we'll talk about their journey, how it looked from their side, starting from their first thought of buying home in Spain through all their doubts, changes of plans, online viewing, financing, and finally deciding of which dream house they will decide upon and to move forward. So let's get started. First of all, thank you, Monika, for joining us, and congratulations on becoming the Spanish homeowner. Tell us a little bit more about how does it feel, and specifically how you're feeling right now and what it's like to be a Spanish homeowner.
Thank you for your invitation. I will try to explain everything from my perspective. I think it's very important for our guests that it's not an expert. It's normal human being who is having a dream and try to fulfill the dream. For the beginning, it was a crazy idea, but at the end, as you see, it's a really effect. So let's start to talk, and I will try to answer your questions.
Amazing. But it's a really big step forward, and the dreamers are the ones who are actually achieving their plans. So congrats again. Okay, so starting from the very, very start, what actually made you seriously thinking about buying a second property in Spain?
It wasn't a romantic idea for a house under palm trees. It was a very practical decision. We were looking for a property that would work for us, give us stable rental income, preferably in euro, and growing value faster than savings and accounts or other passive options. And Spain simply made sense from an investment point of view, and diversification was also very important. Until then, all our assets were in Poland, and the war close to our border made us realize how risky it is to keep everything in one country. Spain became our plan B, geographically, financially, and personally. There was, of course, also a human reason. Where it's cold, like today, and heavy, where I live, I wanted the option to spend time somewhere warm where life happens outside. And one day, maybe in retirement, I wanted a choice, not just a dream. And the third reason was the language, because we are learning with my husband Spanish, and I know how much easier to learn is to learn Spanish being around people, hearing it every day, not only in classroom or internet or your books. So finally, inspiration. I have some friends and people who already bought property in Spain. And there was a friend who bought a flat in Calpe, Torrevieja, but as well in Valencia. The turning point was a conversation with a friend who bought an apartment in Valencia on Rusafa. It was a beautiful with high historic ceilings, but they made modernization, and it was as well did by modern way at the same time. And that was the moment that I thought it's not just for celebrities, it's real. And this is the moment that I stopped being a dream and become a plan.
Oh, fantastic. But I guess you actually managed to combine the practical and romantic in the end,
Yes.
because you ended up being, under the palm trees and having a fantastic practical
Yes.
solutions.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. The process took some time, and I remember, I think one of the sentences really stuck to me when you said, a year ago, I would have never imagined booking an apartment in Spain over the phone, What have changed? And, can you go through some of the highlights in this sometimes painful process of searching and eventually purchasing?
A year earlier, honestly, couldn't even imagine buying an apartment in Spain remotely online. Not because I don't trust people, but because it felt completely illogical, crazy, as loco. You don't buy a car without a test drive, yes? You don't choose holiday based on reviews. You choose holidays based on reviews from people who are there, who slept there, who ate there. You order clothes online, try them, and if they don't fit, you just send them back. And suddenly I was supposed to buy an apartment worth the price of 2 or 3 small apartments in Poland, based on a few photos, often without any address, without a photo of the building, without any real context of the neighborhood. For me, it was totally an absurd. And I think a lot of my friends will think the same. So at the beginning, I imagined it very in, in Polish way. Yes, I thought I will find something. The agent will check everything, make detailed videos inside, outside, street, neighborhood, send me tons of materials. Then I will book a flight, come over, see it in person, and then I will decide. Today, I can only laugh of this idea because it was the biggest joke of the whole process. The reality in Spain is different. Don't wait with their calendars for regime buyers. Sometimes it's hard even to reach them because it can take days. Yes, Maria often had to call again several times just to get a response. Yes, so the idea that I would quickly fly in and the agent would be waiting for me, it's yes, sure, of course. So very quickly I got a cold shower. In places like Valencia, I cannot speak about other places, but in Valencia, demand is huge, yes. Good apartments disappear in hours. If you don't decide fast, someone else does it for you. This wasn't my natural choice. The market forced me into it. So over time, I had to adapt and build online system. I have built my own system. So before I even send some interesting advertising to Maria, I did my own investigation. I checked the view from the windows because when you have the advertisement of the flat, you can see what is outside the windows sometimes. So I looked for distinctive buildings across the street. I opened the street view and went meter by meter to find the exact spot where the photo could have been taken. And then I checked the satellite maps to see the building entrance, for example, whether it was direct from the street or through a patio, which I didn't want it, and whether the other side of the apartment faced a narrow, dark courtyard. So this wasn't a paranoia, it was necessity to buy a flat online. And that's why when I really understood how crucial and good local agent is, because even with all the research, determination, and online analysis, without someone on the ground who knows the market, reacts fast, and confirms the facts, process will be simply it doesn't work. Yeah. At some point, it became clearer to me that Spain, the winner is not the person who wants to see everything in person. The winner is the one who is prepared, decisive, and has trusted people on the ground.
And actually, it's amazing because, you know, you and your husband, Adam, I mean, you both became almost like special agents, no? Always like
Yes.
tracking, because we also remember the process when you were going and sending all the satellite pictures, and then like you were asking for something, and then 10 minutes later you were already coming up with answers. Okay, I saw the angle is that, and actually this building is not that color. I think it's the building behind. So I think you really became specialist in searching, analyzing, researching, and, you know, fact checking.
You know,
It's
it was
really impressive.
Yeah, but it was our money, our future. And it was really big decision because we are not investors who have bought 10 or 20 flats already and are going to buy next. It's, you know, it's one decision of our life or our savings. So we were really serious about this process. Yes, maybe too serious, but it was really for us a lot of money.
No, and I think, you know, in general, it is a serious decision in the end. We were just laughing about how specialized you became of really even becoming the experts of property themselves. And I think this is, you know, the following questions I have, because like only you were checking the location, the building, the facades, of course, but you were also mentioning like the interior patio. So I think you've also understood the concept of having the internal flat and exterior flats, which is something completely different to Poland. And, you know, that leads me to another questions of, you know, coming from Poland and having lived in Poland for almost all your life, you know, what was the most surprising and shocking, what you can tell when comparing Polish and Spanish property standards? If you could elaborate a little bit on that.
What surprised me most was how many apartments were very old styles and quite worn out. And we personally like bright, modern spaces with light, openness, and air. So this was our first real collision with the reality, because many apartments had very small windows, often old aluminum sliding windows, the kind that you open with the finger pushed into a frame. Living rooms were often small and placed at the end of the long, narrow corridor with no feeling of open space at all. And there were also very old electrical systems, no heating in the way that we understand in Poland, yes, and extremely narrow internal doors, even less than 60 centimeters. So it was very surprised. And I know what else. The staircases, very narrow, something so tight that larger furniture is brought in through the windows using a crane. And this is not completely normal there, because I was talking with my friends who was making the apartment on Rusafa, and it was normal. So this is important. I don't see it a better or worse. It's simply a different lifestyle. And what I think that in Spain, the apartments is often more like a place to sleep than a representative space, because life in Spain happens outside, in bars, restaurants, on plazas, among people. You meet family and friends outside, not necessarily around the table in your living room. So in Poland, it's often the opposite. The home is more that for show, more finished, bigger, designed, and prepared for hosting guests. It's a completely different housing culture. I think I'm not expert, but it's my observation. And once we understand that, we stop being surprised and started choosing intentionally, not what looks good in the brochure, but what actually fit us. And that was one of the most important discoveries on the whole process.
No, fantastic. And as you say, I think that the cultural part plays a big role. And I think this is very important for not only investors, as you mentioned, like yourself, just also the
Yes.
buyers to understand that in the process. So I think that would
Yes.
bring a lot of clarity to our listeners to actually understand, like the house serves a different purpose in Spain.
And we need to have respect for Spain. We cannot compare with us, because we have another culture, and we want to have respect for Spain people, because we want to live there.
Yeah, it's a different culture and also different weather. And with the great
Yes.
weather as we're having, like you're able to forgive even the small corridors and not so
Yes.
spacious areas. However, in the end, you've managed to find the flat that maybe was not a flat of your dreams, as you would have imagined, I would have pictured you over a year ago, but we'll come back to that later on.
Yes.
But you've managed to probably tick most of the boxes anyway.
Yes.
But I would like to come back again. We mentioned that you've done most of the process remotely, which was very brave. I would like to go back to some of the pain points, and if you could tell me a bit more of, what was the most stressful and frustrating moment during that process and why?
The most stressful moment was when we actually did decide very quickly, and still we lost the apartment. We were both at work in the middle of nowhere working days. I was even on a business trip when you and Maria went to see a property for us. Maria sent us photos, videos, and quick summary. For the first time in months, everything was good and made sense. Yes, layout, light, location, metro nearby, no compromises. We had to talk ourselves into. So we didn't hesitate. We said yes almost immediately. You know it. And then we found out that someone else has been through about 2 hours earlier and had already made an offer. And the listing agent hadn't updated the status yet. And so the apartment was still being shown. Even through in practice, it was already gone while we were saying yes. So that was really frustrating because it wasn't about indecision or moving too slowly. We had done everything right. We reacted fast, but the market was simply faster. That hit me hardest was the realization that when you buy remotely, timing is everything. And sometimes it's brutally out of your control. You can be ready, decided, financially prepared, and still lose simply because you weren't first by a couple of hours. So that moment completely changed how we approach the rest of the process. We stopped assuming that deciding quickly was enough. We understood that you also need system, trust in your agent, and their ability to act immediately, even in the middle of your workday, because the market doesn't pause for your calendar. Yes, so losing this apartment made us much better buyers afterwards.
Oh, fantastic. I'm just taking notes and I think there is a lot of pure gold in this content. And I also remember very, very well that day, because we've been also super excited because the apartment seemed to be perfect for you. And I still remember this negotiation on the phone and then just running back to the apartment and me saying, yes, we got the reservation, we got the booking. And then there was a surprise.
It was a few minutes, really. We didn't hesitate. Yes. So
yes, it was on the spot. I agree. But as you said, it made you, even sharper buyers, more decisive about what you want. And that really leads me to, the questions of requirements, because, at the beginning of the process, we always ask you, make us a list of what would you like.
Yes,
what your draw? Yes, exactly. How does your dream house look like? And then you have this long list, of course. So, for you as well, particularly in your case, like your requirements evolved a lot. What changed a lot was the budget, even the location. The big topic, at the beginning you said obligatory, we need to have a lift there, that there is no way we'll be walking up and down the stairs. And then also talking about the layout of the house, etc. So could you tell me maybe a bit of what did you think initially about something being non-negotiable as a requirement? And then in the end, as a matter of fight of being a sharper buyer, you have to let it go.
Yes, at the beginning, our list for sure was very long. We basically wanted everything at once. Perfect location, bright and modern interior, lift, as you said, great layout, metro, and of course, the feeling that we found something perfect. Yes, so the market very quickly showed us that its approach is not realistic. The biggest change was the lift. At first, it was absolute must because, we want to have this flat for retirement, and we travel a lot with suitcases and so on and so on. So we didn't want it to go with suitcases or shopping on the stairs. But over time, we made a very clear and honest compromise. No lift is acceptable up to third floor. From the fourth floor up, no. So it's needed as for simply normal life today as well. Yes, that we didn't want to lie to ourselves about that. At the same time, by the purpose, we rejected top floor apartments because first, it's simply much hotter under the roof and Spanish summers can be brutal. And second, this is very important for us. Shared building responsibility. If the roof leaks, in reality, the problem affects you the most, and fighting for a price can take a long time, and we knew we didn't want to that kind of stress, so we didn't want to have the flat under the roof. What we didn't not compromise on were the fundamentals. Good natural light, it was absolutely the most important thing for us. The safe entrance on the building, good public transport, and no north-facing living room or bedroom on a patio. These things directly affect daily comfort and long-term value because we are going to Spain for sun, and in the north side, never you have never have sun. Over time, we stopped looking for a perfect apartment and started looking for a reasonable one. One you can actually live in, not just one that looks good in photos, yes? And that it's when the process finally started to move forward because we resigned from the elevator for the whole building. Never the case with the sun and the north side of apartment. It was not negotiable.
And I would like to go back to what you said just a few minutes ago, saying that, you're not an investor, you're just a normal buyer. But, the way you talk about the non-negotiable aspects of the purchases and, talking about long-term value and how you're positioning, the right orientation, as you said, and the positioning of the lift, because it's true in Spain, like you can still find buildings and like for potential rentals, up to fourth, even without lift. But it's nice that you set the free as the maximum. So yeah, I would say to me it sounds that you almost converted into serious investor now. So I'm sure this was the first apartment, but let's see what happens soon, because I think the
Yeah,
appetite grows or the age, of course, to help and support others. Like, who knows exactly? No, but that's perfect, and it like makes complete sense. And obviously, this process takes some time. But I think in the end, as you said, it made you a sharper decision maker, and it led you to the apartment which you find. I also wanted to talk about the topic of additional services and costs. So, like, as you mentioned, buying the property is already a very expensive process. You even said that, one house in Spain or one apartment is like three apartments back
yes,
in Poland, obviously depending of the city as well. But
yes.
this is the sort of calculation you presented. Yourselves actually, not only as Polish residents, decided to purchase a property in Spain, but you decided to do it via mortgage. And you were using the services of Mortgage Direct, which is also one of our partners. And, like there is additional fee to it. So, many buyers would try to avoid this mortgage brokers to save the money. So I'd like to hear from you a bit of, the working process with the broker. Did it make the process more expensive or cheaper in the end? And how was your experience overall? Honest answer.
For me, especially a saved process. For me, one thing is very important, was very important. We were always the ones making the decision, not the agent. Maria never said, you have to take this one, and never pushed us to buy quickly just to close a deal. In such a fast and emotional market, and that matters for me a lot. We choose the apartments that match our criteria. It was many such apartment, and the agent went to see this apartment in person, yes. After each visit, she gave us a very clear and factual summary. Entrance, building, sun, light, layout, surrounding, no pressure, no sales tricks. It felt like real help, not selling. There were moments when we were tired and close to making too many compromises just to finish the process. And that's when Maria actually slowed us down. She said very clearly, if it doesn't feel right, don't buy it. The market is difficult, but the apartment should be right for you, not for the agents. That gave us a lot of peace of mind. This is important. And another very important point, we had no cost, for example, for translations, lawyers, or hidden services. Apart from the notary, everything was included in the agent's fee. So documents, explanation, guidance through the whole process. It was completely service with no financial surprises, yes. And honestly, without being on site, without speaking Spanish, and while working a normal full-time job in Poland, I don't think it is possible to manage alone. The question is how, when, between meetings, work trips, and daily life. For me, it's unrealistic. It couldn't happen. I often compare it to healthcare. You don't diagnose yourself and buy medicine without seeing a doctor. You need someone who knows the system and can see things. Buying property in Spain work, I think, in the same way. So, of course, not every agent is like that. Someone can push people into fast decision because they want money, quick money. We were simply lucky. We found someone honest, patient, and truly acting in the clients, in our interest. So, looking back, I don't think the agent made the purchase more expensive. Actually, she helped us avoid mistakes, which can be expensive and could have cost much more than the commission. So I think being abroad, it's necessary, and I couldn't imagine any other way. And I think you have been in, 20 apartments. The process take time from March. So it's all the time you work, which was not paid until the commission. So I think it's worth.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. And I'm sure Maria would be listening to this episode later on. So there's a couple of special mentions to her. So special shout out. Thank you very much for that. And I think, yes, the key here and the highlights, as you said, is this the safety, peace of mind, which has no price. So, but also thank you for your trust and giving us this confidence. So, the process has been very long, sometimes painful, sometimes exciting. How did it feel to finally reserve the property and sign the Arras contract? So if you could tell us a little bit more about this, the final stage of really making this reservation and signing it off.
It is strange because I was looking for it so hard, and it was very far from a movie style euphoria that people often imagine with decisions like this. At that moment, the main feeling was stress and full focus. Everything had to be done correctly, on time, with no mistakes and no risk. It was more about responsibility than romance. Excitation came later, when emotions calmed down and all the paperwork was signed on it and secured. That's when I thought, okay, it's really happened. No impulsively, no emotionally, but I was so quiet, but I couldn't, I think, believe it. When the pressure of deadline, documents, and money finally went away, happiness, of course, appeared too. But I'm surprised, but a quiet, calm kind of happiness, not fireworks, but at the same time, I was really happy. But I think why it's because I still don't have the keys. I haven't slept there. I haven't had my first morning coffee or breakfast in this apartment. So I think I not believe it 100%. And I think I will really feel it when I will be there with my first coffee.
That's a great starting point. That's a really great reference. The first great Spanish coffee in your new place. Well, it's soon. It's soon. These weeks will pass by very quickly. So I'm sure it's going to happen sooner than you think. But it's very interesting what you're saying about this not feeling euphoria at the moment, but also it's a bit of a stressful moment in the end. As you said, there is many things that have to come together at the same time. So again, the guidance here is really important to make sure that the whole transaction comes through. But we'll be keeping fingers crossed for your coffee
Yes.
in Valencia.
I will invite
in your
you.
apartment.
We will do it together.
And we will come, and it will be an honor. Maybe if I could just ask you,
And I
like
cook good cakes, so I can.
fantastic, amazing. It has to be the orange cake, with local oranges.
Okay. I will do everything you want. I'm so grateful.
We've been covering a lot of the whole process and, like the differences. So maybe if you can because it seems that you're doing a great job in naming all of these reflections, like looking back, what do you understand about buying property in Spain that you didn't understand at the beginning? If you could share us a bit more.
It is a long story. First, you need to think where I actually want to live, not just spend holidays. For many years, I knew Spain mostly from small holiday towns. I had a very classic idea: sun, sea, a second home, life like a vacation. But searching and staying there showed me that holidays and everyday life are two very different things, yes? Small towns outside the season become very quiet. Houses with pools need constant care. Gated complexes are often far from the life, the real life that we want to know, yes, the Spain people. And then something surprised me. Valencia completely changed my thinking. It's a big city, but it has one of the most beautiful beaches I have seen in Spain. Honestly, wider, cleaner, and more natural than in many typical resorts. For me, it's comparable to Miami Beach. Soft sand, no stones, a lot of space. And on top of that, there is a real old town where you can truly get lost, not just walk two small streets. Suddenly, I realized I could have the city, the sea, and the real life all year round. So second, how important logistic and decision-making really are. At the beginning, I didn't understand how much transport matters. For me, with short trips, it became crucial. Valencia has a big advantage. Different flights option. You can fly directly to Valencia, to Alicante, or to Castellón. There are 3 options instead of 1. And in the city itself, metro straight from the airport, great public transport, and real life without a car. Towns, a car, it's a must. In Valencia, it's a choice. The third thing I really didn't understand before. To buy property in Spain, you need to be mentally and financially ready in advance. Decisions are fast, sometimes within hours. There is no time for long thinking, what I told you at the beginning, asking many people, advising, or going over budget because of emotions. If you have a limit, you must respect it. Otherwise, stress and very expensive mistake can almost guaranteed. So today I know this. Buying property in Spain doesn't start with apartment. It starts with understanding yourself, your lifestyle, your energy, your needs, and with very clear preparation. And that honestly I didn't know at the beginning. I was thinking about flats, not about me, my lifestyle, my needs, and where I will be really happy, but not for the holidays, for all the year. So this is surprising for me, but it is true.
And thank you very much. I mean, it's really nicely said. Like it starts with you. I mean, I think that's a very much starting point and the first sentence that any potential future buyer should understand. Like starting with yourself, and especially in a place where so much of the lifestyle is happening outdoors. Well, so as you said, location is crucial. And then you change it. You can still go back to your habits in Poland, but when you're in Spain, you become
Yes.
more Spanish.
Yes.
So I think it's very important to keep that into consideration. So also from this perspective, you also at the beginning of our discussion, you've mentioned that, you know, the decision of buying to one of the factors for you of going and investing in Spain was that some of your friends bought some apartments in Torrevieja, in Calpe, and even in Valencia.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you spoke with a lot more people about the whole process. Could you see some of the mistakes that many, you know, foreign buyers make when buying in Spain?
So I'm always careful with taking about mistakes of other buyers because honestly, I don't know many, maybe 2 or 3 people. I wasn't during this process on forums. I didn't compare myself to other. I didn't talk much to people buying at the same time because I don't know any people who are going to buy something in Spain. So I can talk only about myself, not about the mistakes of foreign buyers, but had to name one big trump for me at the beginning, it was, as I mentioned before, holiday thinking. For a long time, I was convinced that I wanted a second home in a typical holiday place, the kind we know from vacations, so Calpe, Arras, around Malaga, small seaside resort, because they look so beautiful. There are beach photos, and you are really feel like on holiday there. But with time, we understood that a nice place for 1 week or vacation, it's not always a good place for everyday life. Many of these towns become very quiet outside the season. Restaurants close, streets are empty, and everything is built around tourism. Often you see old blocks from the 16th or like in Calpe, or new housing estate, but somewhere on the hill. So it's place where life without a car is almost impossible. So you cannot go for a glass of wine for 5 minutes because it's somewhere on the hill and you need to have a car, so you cannot drink. So and this is not possible. So I think I was very close to falling into the trap. It is beautiful, so let's buy it. And maybe only because we are not millionaires and this decision required serious financial thinking, we gave ourselves the time. And this process took us almost 2 years. First, understanding where, then how, and only at the end what. So the second important lesson, and I think it can be a mistake as well, it's maybe the renovation or the perspective to changes over the time. What feels perfect today might not feel right a year later. So that's why I really wanted something universal, not a decision based on short-term attraction. It's like the little black dress that always works, not shiny gold seconds that look great today and feels not too much tomorrow. I would like to have a little black dress for years. So if I talk about a mistake, I wouldn't really call it mistake. I can call it a lesson. Don't buy with holiday eyes. Buy with a clear head and with everyday life in mind. Or maybe you would like to have only the holiday vacation second home. It's another decision and another situation. I give myself permission to change my mind. We have been talking about it before I make a decision that stays with me for years and years.
Fantastic! Wow, that's a really great summary. I'm also writing down the note on the little bike dress. You know, choosing a house is almost like choosing the little like dress that fits for longer.
Yes.
So maybe just, you know, to wrap it up, because there's been so many good insights and so many, I think, inspiring reflections that I think will help a lot more new clients who are just starting this journey to understand. So if you were to do this summary of like top 3 recommendations for people buying and starting maybe even thinking about buying property in Spain, what would it be?
For sure, decision and finances first and apartment second. Never the other way around. You need to know how much you can really spend in total, not just the listing in price because it's net price. Then whenever your financing is ready. So or you can have your money on your account and it's easy, or you can start the process of having credit. So you need to start it before, because then, as we said, the decisions are very short. And when you don't have a financial security, you will lose your money that you will pay to start this process. And you need to know where your absolute limit is. Yes. So the market doesn't give you time to think about it. Emotional decisions about your budget usually end with stress and losing money. The second, as I said before, choose a lifestyle, not an Instagram location. You should ask yourself honestly, do I want silence or people? City or resort? Car or metro? Seasonally or all year around? So there are no bad choices, only badly matches ones. So holiday attraction and everyday life are 2 very different things. You asked me for 3. So 3 and it's not because we are talking now, but I think it's true and serious. Without a good local agent, it's simply not realistic. Especially if you work full time, you don't speak a Spanish language, you buy online. Really, for me, an agent, it's not a cost. It's a filter, emotional buffer, someone who understands the local reality. Of course, only if you find an honest one. Yes, we were lucky. Without that, this would have been almost impossible. And the final thought that I have after this our conversation, which I know I talk too much and maybe it should be shorter.
Not at all. Not at all. It's perfect. It's perfect.
This is not, and I think I start from this sentence, this is not a process for impulsive romantics, but if you are prepared, aware, and clear about what you want, it can be done safely without losing your mental health. Amen.
Well, Monika, thank you so much. Honestly, thank you so much for sharing your story so openly. You know, this journey has its ups and downs, what you just commented, and we really appreciate that you took the time to talk this honestly about it and what was actually like. And congratulations once again to you and Adam. You know, not long ago it was just a romantic, practical idea, and now you're officially property owners in Valencia.
Now we start the romantic time. Yes,
exactly. Like we now waiting for the moment of picking up the keys. Exactly, picking up the keys and preparing which coffee to
time for romantic
brew. Yes, exactly. So it's a huge step up. As I mentioned before, like I'm sure your experience will help a lot of people who are somewhere at the beginning of this process and now just wondering, you know, if it's possible to do it abroad and, you know, how to feel confident about the whole process and their decisions. So for everyone listening, you know, if you're thinking about buying property in Spain and you have any questions about process, priorities, next steps, feel free to reach out to Homely. And then
I can recommend with my poor heart that it's really It's again, you really cares about you. It's not a slogan. We really were so many times so frustrated that we even wanted to finish this process because it cost us a lot, and without you, I think we wouldn't finish it. And you're calm and honest, because when I see that the agent is not pushing me, okay, so we take it quickly, and I saw that, okay, just wait, we will find something for sure. Don't be afraid. Relax. We come back to this tomorrow. This was really something that I really appreciate. I think it's not 100% normal and obvious.
Let's keep it unusual then. Normal, but not unusual. No, thank
But
you
I
very
can
much. Thank you for
recommend,
this.
really. We didn't know each other before, so it's not something that we know each other and I make now advertisement. It's really story. It's true. It's really history of our investment. So I can really recommend and congratulate everyone who wants to make this process with you.
Thank you, Monika. Thank you once again. It's been great, and thank you for your trust. And then we can't wait for this coffee up on your balcony
Yes.
somewhere
yes, I
in
promise.
somewhere
With the
in
cake.
sunny and warm February.
Orange cake.
Thank you
yes?
so
I will
exact
look to
orange cake. We can bring the cake. We can bring La Coca Valenciana with us, and you brew the coffee. So I think that's
Okay,
the deal.
no
So
problem.
thank you once again for your time, for
Thank
sharing
you.
all these insights, and we will talk soon then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.